Good evening, everybody. So tonight we're going to talk about detecting again. Tonight I thought I'd talk about a couple things that have come up on the answers to the videos I've been posting to YouTube. If you haven't seen those yet, go over and subscribe to Prospector Jess on my YouTube channel. A bunch of videos about gold prospecting in general and lately about metal detecting, but it's not all about metal detecting. It's not all about placer gold either. There's some lode gold and other stuff in there too for all of you guys. So tonight we're going to give you 4 metal detecting tips. These are things that I've kind of hinted at in some of the other videos this last week or so, but they are kind of focused down on the few that I believe really would make a difference for you if you're prospecting with a detector. Or if you're thinking about getting a detector, this would be one way you can think seriously about how to improve your lot, no matter what kind you get. These rules follow and help no matter whether you got an inexpensive Walmart or a really expensive, pulse induction XL with quadruple digital 16-bit, 18-bit, transconducting, whatever. Okay, you get the idea. So let's focus on what we're going to do here. I'm going to go over to the whiteboard in a second here, and I got some stuff on there that I wanted to kind of use as a way to hand wave what we're going to go through tonight. The basic idea here is, if you're out looking for gold, one of the fundamental things you should practice is practice. Yeah. In other words, to find gold and to find it reliably takes skill. Well, how do you think baseball players get those skills, or football, or whatever? No, you don't have to tackle someone to go get gold, but you might have to learn some new skills. One of those is pretty simple. I bring it up, about every time I get a chance. There we go. Here's one. Using one of these things. Learn how to pan for gold. Okay, it's a skill you use indefinitely. Okay. Even if you're out there in the desert and there's no water, you can learn to dry pan. But tonight we're going to talk about learning to prospect with a detector. Any kind of detector. I'm showing you one that's kind of a bigger one, but you get the idea. It doesn't really depend on the thing I'm showing. It's more the thing I'm saying, if that makes any sense. So let me take you over there, and we'll bebop over to the whiteboard live. So let's go now. Okay, so I got to make sure my audio is coming with me. Gets a little awkward sometimes because, well, there's just cables everywhere. All right, so we'll drag this thing out here so you can hear me and I can still respond. So here's our happy detectorist. Okay, this guy's found himself a gold nugget, a big one. 4.5 ounces, okay, to be specific. That's what I heard about and saw on the video I saw yesterday, okay? And whenever you find one of those with a detector, regardless of the circumstances, it's an exciting time. So this guy's kind of excited. See the smiley face, okay? That's the idea. So all I've done here is show you the basic unit. We've got a detector head up here that has all the electronics in it and a handle to hold on to it, and there's also all kinds of different rigs. But fundamentally, they all work the same way. Then down below is our coil. This is our antenna. And it's searching down into the bedrock, that's the red stuff here, hunting for this X marks the spot. And the objective, of course, is to find that X, because that's where the gold is. Also, to know how deep it is would help, because then you know what to break out in the way of gear to extract the stuff. It's interesting how often when people are detecting, they neglect a couple important things. I'll bring up one of them later, but one of the first things is simply digging tools. Okay, you need to have the right kind of digging tools, and you have to make sure that you can pry into and lift out carefully, because if you find a nice big fat 4-ounce nugget, you certainly don't want to split it into 2 2-ounce nuggets, because it doesn't divide the value in two. It divides it a lot more, because now it's a broken nugget, like a broken arrow. Okay, anyway, it's bad. Don't do that. So you need the right tools. I didn't put that on here, but that's another tip. Okay, and these are the tools besides your detector and your good headphones and whatever else you got, because you might have a squawk box on this thing. You might have some kind of speaker set over here that's amplifying, and we'll talk about why you might want to do that in a second here. And it could be connected instead of that, and simply providing you with an audible signal coming into your ears or ears of your neighbors. Now, there's a point there. It can go into the ears of your neighbors if you want to be kind of hush-hush about where you're finding them all, because if you start swinging it and it starts squawking and if there's a crowd around, they're going to see you jumping up and down anyway. So don't worry about that so much, but you get the idea, okay? So one of the first principles is dig every target. Why? Why, PJ? Well, because each target you hear has a certain response. You're going to learn to listen for that response. But the first few times, in fact, every time I've ever dug one, they all have a slightly different tone. But when you start digging gold, you'll know what it sounds like by digging the targets. You'll find aluminum foil oftentimes sounds very similar to gold, okay? Steel and iron, not so much. But when you start heading into aluminum, now there's a reason for that. The aluminum itself, in terms of the EMF conductivity, and gold, and silver for that matter, silver is even better than gold, okay, have this incredible ability to conduct. That conduction is a property, a physical property of the metal itself, and it dictates how this thing responds, especially what's in this box up here. And so what happens is you want to basically learn to use your ears, not rely so much on the numbers, because that kind of gets, wipes out some of the nuances of the tone quality. The tones typically, as these things ring, kind of give off what we'll call distortions, okay, harmonic distortions to be specific. And those distortions tell you a signature, kind of a thumbprint of each metal. Aluminum's pretty darn close in terms of its conductivity with gold, and so it's a little bit hard to discern that from what goes on with gold and silver, okay? But platinum actually is way the heck down there. You might think platinum, well, that's really valuable, it's going to have a really high. No, it doesn't. And that's one of the problems you have with platinum is you think lead, okay? And by the way, lead split shot, stuff like that, they're down there in conduction, okay? They don't have the same response, so you learn to detect those things by digging every target. And then here's the deal that they don't tell you, okay? When you dig every target, skill number one, recall the sound. If you can, record it, but certainly recall it, because that's where you're going to start finding, it's like hunters and using duck calls. If you learn to use them properly, or fishermen and learning to use the right, they call it matching the hatch. If you can match the sound of the nugget to the sound that you're hearing, you'll know which ones to dig more rapidly, if you will, okay? You should still dig every target, because, every once in a while you'll find that nearby a piece of iron is a bunch of gold. So if you didn't dig that target, you would miss that gold. See the problem? It can mask it. And so there's a bunch of reasons why you still want to dig every target, but one of them is simply practice so that you can recall what it sounds like. You learn this skill like a good sonar operator, you can pick off enemy subs all around you, okay? I made that up, but anyway, you get the idea, okay? Balance often. If your system has a ground balance tool or a trash-o-matic filter, a device used to squelch out those excess noises, then use it. But you have to rebalance every time you shift around in an area that has hot rocks or other trashy materials, especially if they're halos. These are salts, typically coming from areas that have sulfides like pyrites and things like that. If you have those in the area, or you have salts like sodium chloride like you would in the desert, or calcium or any others, these things create conductive halos if there's any moisture nearby. And those halos sound not quite like gold, but they'll mask it. That's the problem. So you use the ground balancer, okay, on your device to tune that stuff out so that the gold can poke out. Its sound can poke out above that noise. It's all about signal to noise. If the noise starts creeping up on the signal, pretty soon all you're hearing is, well, gold sounds like noise. You can't hear it anymore. But if it's nice and clean and you hear this boop, boop, every time the gold's around, you'll know you'll hear it. Okay, so that's the second thing we want to do. We're going to do a checklist here. So dig every target, balance often, okay? Now this next one is a little bit kind of mysterious if you don't know what I mean, okay? I'll call it watch out, okay?